Brainwashing usually gets a pretty bad rep, and it's not hard to see why either. When most people think of brainwashing, they envision some evil cult, pressuring you into adopting radically different beliefs by often systematic and forcible means. That's pretty harsh though. Today we're going to be talking about the good type of brainwashing. Such a thing exists. A good brainwash involves no force and can actually lead to a longer, healthier life. Hi, I'm Victoria Perez reporting for Brain to Mind. Now, grab your pillow and snuggle up because today we'll be talking all about sleep. Sleep. Little kids can't stand being sent off to it. Teenagers can't seem to get enough of it. We all need it and we all want far more than we can get. Now, do you know why sleep is important? If you do, you're due for a Nobel Prize because no scientist has been fully able to answer that question. We're not totally in the dark on the subject of sleep though, and what we know is actually pretty fascinating. So let's start with that brainwashing thing I mentioned a moment ago. When you're deep in slumber, your brain is still hard at work. In fact, it's really busy tidying up that space between your ears. It might be nice to just hire a housekeeper. Your brain has had an ad out on Craigslist for ages, but can't seem to find anyone small enough to fit inside the skull. In all seriousness, why does your brain need a nightly deep clean? You see, as you go about your business during the day, toxins accumulate in the brain, just as they can in any other organ. I mentioned in a past video about nutrition that the brain consumes 20% or more of our daily caloric intake, sometimes spiking up to a whopping 50% in times of hard thinking. You see, all of this metabolic activity produces waste products, which we really need to be careful about. It sounds scary, right? I mean, all that muck building up in your brain, it makes me frightened to face the day. But don't worry. When you wake up in the morning, your brain is squeaky clean and ready to rumble. Your brain quite literally washes away these waste products while we sleep. Amazing, right? We call this process brainwashing. The good kind, not the psychologically manipulative kind. The clue that led scientists to unlock the secrets of this awesome process was found in a protein called amyloid beta. This protein, when it accumulates in the brain, leads to the formation of amyloid beta plaques and more times than not can contribute to Alzheimer's disease. A study done on mice revealed that this protein's concentration was at its peak during waking hours and dropped drastically as the mice slept. These findings inspired researchers to look into humans and their brains while sleeping, and they found that we too have this brainwashing process that occurs when we hit the hay. It gets pretty complex, so let me break it down for you. Essentially, the volunteers fell asleep in an MRI scanner to measure activity while sleeping. A noisy claustrophobic tube definitely wouldn't be my preferred place to catch a few Z's, but to each their own. Anyways, the volunteers somehow managed to drift off and enter the first stage of sleep called non-rapid eye movement, or NREM. That's when the magic happened. The electrical activity of the brain cells came into synchrony, turning on and off at the same time. When the neurons were turned off, their need for oxygen and nutrients decreased because they were off and not hard at work, and this meant that the blood flow into the brain also decreased. Now, the skull is like a maximum security casing. It's an enclosed space. So when the blood entering the brain is decreasing in volume, the skull has to be filled with something else. This is when we introduce our friend cerebrospinal fluid, which flows into the skull and washes over the brain as the volume of blood decreases. This process continued throughout NREM sleep, and you can think of it like waves gently crashing onto a beach's shore, clearing away any debris or dirt. Cool, Victoria, but what does this mean for us? Well, learning to increase the nightly brainwashing can prevent and cure disease, and it can help us understand how to slow the aging process. I mean, this is huge. A big part of the reason for this is that many neurological and psychological disorders are associated with disrupted sleep patterns. Sleep disorders and disrupted sleep can lead to neurodegeneration, since your brain isn't given the time to clear neurotoxins, which can lead to toxin buildup and inflammation. So if you want to live your life off the motto, sleep when you're dead, you might want to sleep on that. Before you start to justify your habit of napping for hours on top of your night's sleep, I think you might want to stay here for another minute. Too much sleep, just like too little, can actually increase your risk for cognitive decline and dementia. The largest sleep study ever conducted found that sleeping between 7 to 8 hours per night was ideal. Sleeping less or more than this resulted in lower performance on cognitive tests, showing issues with identifying complex patterns and manipulating information to solve problems. Verbal ability was the most affected. So you may think that a few nights of missed sleep isn't a big deal and that a morning cup of joe will fix your exhaustion. But I hope you learned that missed sleep or excess sleep is a much deeper issue that a few shots of espresso actually can't fix. Sleep is crucial to your brain's health, and besides, who doesn't love feeling well rested? I hope you've enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two. If you did, I'd appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Maybe you know someone who needs to hear this. Also, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me with questions or comments via the Brain to Mind Substack. Bye!